Hi, I'm Mario Guerra, the two-time former mayor of the great city of Downey. And I'm here today on Talking California with my guest, two-time former president and current board of trustee for Cerritos College on the Zurich Lewis. Welcome.
Glad to be back, Mario. Thank you for having me back.
It's good to having you here on there. We had some great discussion last time, and this show's different than Talking Downey. This is about politics. So if you don't want to talk about politics, then move on, and we'll catch you on the flip fly. But we're going to be talking politics. I've known Zurich for a long time. Zurich is only 31 years old, and he's been on the Cerritos College board for 10 years. He's a lawyer. His dad has been mayor of La Mirada, so he comes from a political family and good people. But we've worked together on many campaigns and many issues for many years. So I'm glad you're here. So we started talking. We've done a lot of talking off off camera there. So some of the things now that the election has been certified. So tell us about some of the things that you think that were relevant here to California or even the nation about some of the election results as you saw them.
Yeah. You know, I think one of the mixed results for whoever you might be, whatever perspective you might have, you know, there was a significant Democratic gain at the congressional level.
Right.
There was significant Republican gain at the presidential level and at the legislative level.
Right.
In a lot of different, communities. There were flips of assembly seats and one Senate seat. They're all Latino, certainly at the legislative level between Suzette Valladares, Jeff Gonzalez, Leticia Castillo, and so there's a lot to really unpack about that. And Steve Choi, and Dr. Choi, or at least Valladares was taking over a open seat. You're right.
Right.
Yes.
So that's something that you mentioned when the Latinos, because still in Sacramento. And they were asked, I met last week with the reporter, columnist from the LA Times, Ariano Gustavo, and we were talking, and he did a story, coincidentally, that he was doing, and it just came in the paper, how the Latino caucus in Sacramento won't, even though there's a large number now of Latino Republicans, both in the Assembly and the Senate, they won't allow them into the Latino caucus. Right. And it kind of comes across as a little hypocrisy. You're not willing to work with your own kind.
Yeah, and it's certainly not the first time because, there have been plenty of Latino legislators who are Republican for, many, many cycles, many, many years. Yeah. But, this is really coming to a head. And, even the leader of that caucus has acknowledged that, you can't call them vendidos anymore, and as has been the rationale for keeping them out of the caucus because they quote unquote aren't representing Latinos. And as we'll get into later, there's been such a massive earthquake of movement even here in California. We saw a lot of the border cities in Texas, but Imperial County, even locally here in Bell Gardens, Cudahy, such a significant swing to the right to vote in favor of Trump that we can no longer say this is the only way that we can represent Latinos. There's a lot of people who have voted for him for a lot of different reasons, and we need to have representatives to show those reasons.
Right. Well, we came across, I have an article here. I hate when they do that, but the LA Times on the front page, a political shift in the Mexican Beverly Hills. And I told that the reporter had come to me, and she was very nice, but I said, we're not the Mexican Beverly Hills. I don't even like the Latino Beverly Hills, which the Times has used in the past on there. We're predominantly, Latino, but not Mexican. So anyway, so that's just something. But Downey, like other Latino cities here in the Southeast, saw that big shift that you just commented about. Yeah. And Downey gained 18% more all blue. It almost became all blue. All red, Turned around. Red is for Republicans. It gained 18% red and almost was actually, until some of the counts, 3 weeks later, was turning red.
Yeah.
And they quoted several people. They quoted me on here, and I guess I'm out of the closet because one of the things that, a lot of people, especially here in California, they didn't want to say that they were voting for Trump, because they the stigma that people were putting on that, rightfully so or not, but they're saying, oh my God, you hate immigrants, you hate gays, you hate refugees, you hate women, all those things, and none of those are true for me. I respect women's rights, and I had 2 gay brothers. I'm a refugee. This Saturday will be my immigrant day,
yes.
coming over as a refugee, 65 years. And so all those things. So that's what I think a lot of people were quoted in here saying, we all kept quiet, but then everybody votes that way because you didn't want the stigma.
And that's one of the beauties of a secret ballot, right?
Yes.
You will nobody will ever know how you voted, but you still get to be able to say what you want. And, for better or for worse, we are a first past the post, a democratic system with 2 viable parties. And that is not always the case in every democracy everywhere. Certainly not in the UK, but when you're faced with that binary choice of are you going to continue down the same road that Biden, that Kamala Harris had brought us down, or are you going to vote for someone who had a good tenure during his first time? Whether you like him personally or not, whether you like his mean tweets or not, ultimately you have to decide. Maybe not so much in California because, we already know how that's going to go. But if you're in one of those 7 swing states, as we saw, every single swing state went the same way.
And the popular vote.
And the popular vote.
That's
certainly.
the one thing that always got me, too. When Senator Dianne Feinstein, when Trump won the first election, she says, I hope our president succeeds. Who doesn't? If he succeeds, our country succeeds. So we're all should be cheering for him. And I remember, how they all came at her. Oh my gosh, how can you do that? And then of course Kevin DeLeon, him and his. Kevin DeLeon runs against her. Yeah. She kicks his butt, and it was sad for her to have to put up with that because she was a moderate for the most part. She did some good things. There's some things I didn't like, but for them to come out that way. So now you fast forward 8 years, and now they called a special legislative session. It's Trump-proof our state. They authorized $25 million. You got the Attorney General Bonta out there, doing press conferences across the border. You had Governor Newsom. I really think that they're going to use this to raise their national platform here in California, and they're getting the taxpayers to pay for it.
Well, and that's how politics is played, unfortunately, especially when you have a one-party state. They call it Trump-proofing, but I believe that Maria Alvarado Gil, who was a recent switch to the Republican Party, has been going around saying that we should be a Trump-proving state to help work with the administration and take that same philosophy of saying, we need to work with the president in order to make sure that, their policies that benefit our communities are effective. And so, I think that's just a way for, Attorney General Bonta and Governor Newsom to, position themselves to get in front of, the media, to get earned media and say, look at us, we're going to be, the resistance. But it's not going to be the same effect as it was when everybody developed the resistance against, Donald Trump between, 2016 and 2020, right? Yeah. I think, there's been so many people that have had their eyes open to say, hey, look, he might not be the greatest person to,
emulate.
Exactly. But, I think
the policies
that's
work.
The policies
that's
work.
one of the things I said here.
Absolutely.
I voted for the policies, and, and I'm not going to be disappointed in that. I think my message to the Democrats is, be like Dianne Feinstein. Okay, cheer for the president to succeed, because if he succeeds, our state and our country succeeds. So, take that as a leader in her leadership thing instead of saying you're going to fight everything that he does. Because it's not.
And it's good to have civil opposition to that, as we call it. They call it in the UK. His Majesty's loyal opposition, right? Whoever is the biggest party, right? And obviously we don't have a king. We never will. Never have. That's why we exist as a country. Yeah. But that same philosophy of staying loyal to the nation and loyal to the people, to say, hey, we want the best for what's everybody, rather than, for our own, our own gain. And so, that same kind of philosophy needs to be in all parties. And that's what, we've represented in our respective, local offices, especially at the local level, where, we don't have a party designation after our name on our elections. We
Right,
do what's best
right.
for the
And
people.
For many years,
Yeah.
that was always a draw.
Yeah.
That we the Republicans, we actually had more local council people and local school board members, Republicans than Democrats. And I forgot what year it wasn't that long ago when it changed a little bit. Because what happened was, people like our candidates. They like you. They like your ideas. They like who you are and what you've done to help your communities and so forth. Until then, you put the big R across there. And that's
Right.
what they
It's-
use.
yeah.
And how many times this year in this election, everything they try it into Trump. Okay, everything was Trump.
Yeah.
Trump this and Trump that on there, and it had nothing to do with local, and it had nothing to do with the state. The biggest example on that, the disingenuousness of the ads that the Democrats put out, they ran some ads against some of our candidates about, oh, they're pro-life, okay?
Right.
And they're going to take away your right to choose and so forth. And in California, you know that that's BS, because we actually have a state constitutional amendment that says abortion almost at will, if you will.
Right.
So for them to know and say that, knowing that you can't going to change it in California, and the president of the United States, President-elect,
Yeah.
has also said that's a state's rights. That's what the Supreme Court said. So if you're saying by electing Mike Garcia, that's going to hurt us and being taken away the women's rights, that's BS. You're being disingenuous. You're lying to your constituents. That can never happen in California. And, but that was the main issue. Trump and abortion, Trump. And
Yeah.
they don't call it abortion. They call it women's rights. Women's rights.
Yeah.
So you have these women's rights. So that's what I hate about politics, and that's what it came through very clear.
Yeah.
And
that was effective certainly at the federal level, but that same kind of messaging didn't happen at the legislative level, which is ironic because those are the people who can change
Yes.
the policies.
Yes.
You had
Yes.
Republican flips, but then the congressional level who could make certain
Yes.
votes here and there. It's about perception, and you know that very
Yeah.
well. We all know that
Yeah.
very well. But that's what permeates through to people who don't pay attention, either because they willingly don't or because they're too busy to really study each and every
Yeah.
detail, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot to really unpack, and we could take many
I
days to do that.
I always find
But,
at this
yeah.
time of the year, too, I'm hoping that legislators from both sides, because this is when they take their junkets, right?
Yes.
They had their junket to Hawaii. Then they had the one to China. They had one to Taiwan. They had one to the Philippines. So these lobbying groups take both sides, and it's perfectly legal, but you should look to see your legislator where they were at over the
Sure.
last month. So then hopefully they work together. And they learn. Some of them need to learn math. LA City Council, for example.
Yeah.
LA City Council last week, three of them at least voted against it. They voted to increase hospitality pay, start because of the Olympics, right? Anybody in the hospitality industry, and they're to increase it to $30. But the interesting thing is that it starts in February of this year, like in 3 months.
Yeah.
So a couple of the council people said, how is the money going to work? How are they going to get enough money to pay these workers in 2 months? There's nothing new coming in. I mean, and the thing is, we all want everybody to make sure they make as much as they can. But you got to have economic sense. So what they're going to do is they're going to lay off people. They're going to have less staff. Other people are going to have to work harder. That's what happened in the restaurant industry. You increase the pay, and people didn't get full-time jobs, or you cut it from 12 employees down to 9 because you couldn't afford it.
Increases of the minimum wage that aren't tied to economic standards of rationality, let's just say, are always doomed to fail, and it's never going to be about the individual worker. It's going to be about the leadership of those people who have tenured jobs, so to speak.
And it's got to be, and one of the things that we're not even back to, in 2019, I believe we had 85 million tourists here in LA County. And I think last year in 2023, we only had 79. You had the COVID year. So we're not even back to where we were pre-COVID. So now you're making some of these companies that are struggling. I get the Olympic boom, if you will, but next year is 2025. February is 2 months away and stuff. So anyways, so sometimes that's what gets me frustrated. It sounds like a great soundbite. Oh, we're going to do this for the workers and stuff, but tell that to the worker that got laid off because we're paying this one more. So that's kind of interesting. So, let's talk about California politics from the GOP standpoint. We've had Jessica Patterson has been our chairwoman now. And she's done an amazing job. I mean, the number of registration, the fundraising that she did, changing. I mean, number one, we turned a lot of House seats in the past. Also now we even picked up some new seats. Made more counties, red, if you will.
Yeah, especially Imperial, which is huge.
Oh, absolutely.
Incredibly huge.
Absolutely. To get some of the things that we've done on there. So based on her leadership, and she's done a great job for all these years, and I have a lot of respect for her.
Going in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So now she's turned out. So in March of the convention up in Sacramento, we'll vote somebody new. And have you been getting the emails about the people running and so forth?
I'm no longer a part of the Central Committee anymore, so I probably have not been put on those mailing lists. But I hope that whoever does take up that mantle is going to take the same direction that not only the California GOP has done, but even the LA GOP with the leadership of Tim O'Reilly. Yeah. And I've known Roxanne Hogue for quite a while, and she made her own run, came very, very close to getting that. But it's always in the Lord's timing as to when someone may get into that office, and I think that really is the time, certainly at the local level, that she's created. She's really proven herself to be someone who will be on the ground and someone who will be, active in, the community, at least at the local level. And, I'm not familiar with who the candidates might be at the statewide level, but
statewide, our vice chair, Corinne Rankin, is running for chair.
Okay.
And then former Senator Mike Morrell is also running for the chair on there. So I've been getting emails from both of them. I know them both on there. And so it's going to be interesting. But, we thought about it the other day, and Jessica wasn't even a candidate until like January of that year when she got elected. And she did an overwhelming job. And actually, Speaker McCarthy is the one that asked her to run, wanted a good ally there. So she's done an amazing job. I'm so proud of that. I've been on the board. I was the elected treasurer for 4 years, 2 terms. 2-year terms, and then since then, Jessica has asked me. I've been the budget committee chair, and then last week I did my last budget, which was a process. You meet with the staff, you go through it. Yes. You meet with the treasurer, you meet with the vice chair, you meet with the chair, all different. Then you meet with the committee, and then you present it to the board. And last week, when I presented to the board, that one we did via Zoom. It was a little embarrassing for me. I lost the bet. Okay, I had to wear a USC scarf.
Oh, no.
A UCLA alum on there, and Jessica and I bet. And so there's a picture my wife took, my Trojan wife alum, and so forth. Anyway, but next year will be interesting. We'll see what the new face will be and how we move forward on there. But I hope they can continue to build on the progress that in the elevation that Jessica has done for us. That's been amazing. So. Talking about that, anything else that you wanted to touch bases on this one here? We had a couple of things that, the ballot initiatives. Oh, that's what I wanted to do. I was looking at my notes.
Yeah.
See, so there's this group called Reform California, and they have placed several initiatives on the ballot. And it was interesting because they now send emails out and ask us to, what things do we think they're important, and what they're going to put 2 or 3 to try to raise the money to put it on the ballot. It's groups like this that got us Prop 36 to reform things, that got us, the no rent control thing, and some of the other ballot initiatives that make common sense to most Californians. Mm-hmm. So here they said, hey, give us your input. What do you think of some of these, right? So in the first one that they said, listen, we're going to definitely do already committed to do this. And one of them is the California ID initiative. It'll require voter ID, citizenship, verification to vote, and require counties to count ballots on time. Yeah. It sounds simple enough,
When Florida can do it, we can do it too.
It still boggles the mind that, and so when we went to vote this year, right, you just tell them your name and then they find you on the thing.
Yep.
And then they do have you sign on like an iPad looking thing. So they're supposed to verify my signature. Well, how I sign that on with my finger is not the same ballot, the same signature that,
Sure.
when I first
Right.
registered. So
Right.
how are you going to compare that scribble thing that I do with that? That's number one, and I was telling you the story. So on Monday, I went to my first game of the Into a Dome, which where the Clippers play. Steve Ballmer, the owner,
Yeah,
which is amazing. He paid for that all cash. Okay, but he got government's help. Only a rich person could. That bar there, the bars and the lounges there, they could stay open till 4 a.m. 4 a.m. Last year's
Special exemption.
Special
Yes.
exemption
Yes.
only for them. And the legislator, oh yeah, sure, we'll do it. The sequel thing, they're no, sure, we don't need that on there.
sequel, right?
So yeah, so we love.
Yeah.
So I loved it. By the way, it was really nice. It's
Sure.
nice that an owner paid his own money for his own team to build his own stadium and no debt on it. Okay, but it's very high techy. So I go to walk in, and you have to download the app before, and you had to download your picture and stuff. But I'm walking in, and right before I get to it, the young lady says to me, she goes, "Good to see you, Mario. Welcome." And then I'm looking, she knew who I was, and I'm looking for where it told her that who had my name. I couldn't see any of that.
Yeah.
So I thought that was creepy, but actually kind of good. It was easy. You go to buy anything, you don't have to pay anything. You just pick it up and you take it and you get billed for it. So, but voter ID. Sorry, I got off track there on
No
voter ID.
worries.
There's some other ones on there. You and I talked about too that possibly could be on there, and maybe we can bring it up and see what people think on there. So.
Yeah, and related to my experience as Cerritos College trustee, we've put, at least when I've been on the college board, we've put 2 bonds on the ballot that I believe you've also voted on as well.
Yeah.
And
I'm paying for them both too.
And you're paying for it. I'm paying for it too. I'm paying for it too. Don't you worry.
Okay, all right.
But I think that one of the things that are brought up in this most recent bond measure is that in 2022, I did vote against it just as a matter of, hey, we need to consider the effects of COVID and maybe think about it doing it a different time. We brought it up to the voters. The rest of the board voted for it. I didn't state that it was wrong to do and that we should never do it, but that it may not have been the right time to do it. And I think, and when it did pass, it passed by a very relatively slim margin of 57%. Of the vote, and obviously we're going to make sure it goes well. I mean, maybe you pass by the college and
no,
see
I have
how
trust
much,
in you guys,
and how much we've done for it, and that is the choice. But you also have to think that 43% of all of the college district at Cerritos College, voted against it for maybe some reasons I brought up, maybe some of their own reasons, but it's one of the things that we need to do as any jurisdiction, whether it's college, K through 12, or a city. Or a water district or anything else, is to really get the trust of the voters to say that this is a necessary sacrifice for all the property owners, and sometimes those property owners pass it on to the renters as well. For that increased property tax to build upon any successes, or maybe even remediate in some other instances issues with that jurisdiction. So the one thing that really stood out to me that had that personal experience is the first one that's on this list here, the Taxpayer Protection Initiative, that would restore a 2/3 vote for local tax hikes, and would prohibit imposition of taxes without a public vote, which I'm pretty sure is already the law now, and most of the time, whether it's a transient tax, whether it's anything else, those are public votes. They have to be. But that change to a 2/3 would really be a very big change for a lot of our local districts.
Absolutely.
Especially in 2020, when there were many different bonds put on the ballot throughout the state, as I recall from hearing from our staff, that every single one passed at the local level.
Right.
But
Slim margins.
Both some of them were slim margins, some of them were big, really dependent.
Right.
But you hardly ever see any ballot initiatives fail.
Right.
You know, the only ones I've ever heard of were at ABC Unified, but they're a different political animal. Let's just say.
Right.
But it all has to do with that threshold, right? Whether you get 55% plus one, or whether you get 70% as we had in previous bonds. I think those are big differences in how much community buy-in you can do, and just because you can put something and can do something that is going to be beneficial doesn't mean that you have to do that. So I think this is something that really speaks to me, and putting that 2/3 vote up, because again I don't think bonds are a bad thing, and they really aren't, but if they're not necessary,
we just voted for two $10 billion ones, the state of California,
and that the state
two $10 billion bonds. So I hope we get our money's worth, because we're going to be paying a lot of money for the next 30 years.
Right. So the statewide bonds, work differently than what we have at the local level, where it's directly applied to each individual property tax assessment. So whether the state wants to default on it or not, as they have with certain business loans, and now that you have a 0.1% increase on small businesses that came about. So
it's going to be interesting.
It's very different, but I think as the reason why we have states in the first place, right, is for the decentralization of government, and to have it as close to the individual as possible. So, when you have initiatives that come up like this with the 2/3, I think that's what helps decentralize it, and really makes it that much higher of a burden to say we really need to make this happen. And I think that's what I would like to see.
Well, they have some great things here, and they're basically asking opinions, right? Which one of these two? There's a punish the politicians for unconstitutional action that impose penalties on the governor and state legislature. So all those sound good. It's just that what's the best choices here? Here's the ones that I thought have the best choices and have the most impact. So one called the California Honest Ballot Titles Initiative. Right now, the Attorney General in the state of California is the one that decides the wording. And as you know, they played politics with that. They've had that wording completely opposite of what the proposition actually means. So that one, it just requires simple, honest ballot titles on all state and local measures, with wording determined by proponents and a bipartisan independent panel. Okay, so you can clean that up, but that just makes common sense. And then the other one, that Balanced Budget Accountability Act, it restores the 2/3 vote required to approve the state budget, and to give the minority party a little leverage and some fiscal discipline. I think that I think if that was on the ballot, I think people would vote on that again.
I think
now, knowing it was kind of like Prop 47 went one way, and then Prop 36 we're swinging back, but now we're swinging like, you guys are spending our money crazy up there under one party rule in the state. Don't you talk to the other side,
Yeah.
Hey,
and that has been typical, but there's a lot of budget gimmicks and games that can be played to avoid having to deal with not even just Republicans, but moderate Democrats. To have the budget.
So, well, listen, we've gone through a lot of things back and forth. We're going to do another show just about LA County and talking about the new changes now coming with the redistricting, with the new county CEO and stuff. We'll do some other shows coming up, but Zurich, I always enjoy you, and you're on top of all the issues, and we appreciate it. What are you doing for Christmas and New Year's? Anything special?
I'm moving into a new house.
Oh, congratulations!
So,
Yay!
Yes,
Good.
That's going to be the big thing.
You're still staying in the district. You don't
Of
have
course.
To, you don't have to cheat other politicians. I know you're
rent out an apartment. And,
you're a good politician. That was the Arbor Robles. And
even if I didn't have the position that I have, I would still want to remain in La Mirada, because I love that city so much.
Oh, that's right. Congratulations to you. I know you have a new baby. And, and congratulations. That's
Thank
awesome.
You.
So,
yes.
Anyways, we're going to wrap this up. And we want to thank you for listening to. There's a lot of politics that goes on. This is the quiet time, if you will, in politics, but we got to cover a lot of things. We get forward. It starts in January, and politics doesn't end. This was a big election year. A lot of people went to work, and now we have the results. So now as a country, we have a mandate. You got Congress, you have the Senate, and you have the White House. So for the Republicans, I hope you know what you're doing and move forward on all the things you promised. And I kind of have confidence we will. So state of California, stop sending our money, work together with the new administration, and let's see what you can do. So anyways, all right. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you to all of you, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's, and we hope to see you back. And all my best to you. God bless.